Welcome to the Up Next AI podcast. It's Wednesday, June 10th, 2026, and here's what matters in AI today. First up, Waymo says it has built a better benchmark for comparing robotaxis to humans. According to TechCrunch, the company created a new computer model designed to more accurately answer a core question for autonomous driving: how its software stacks up against a careful and competent human driver. Waymo says the model is meant to help it understand how humans behave in crash scenarios that its robotaxis encounter. The key point here is not that Waymo has somehow settled the robotaxi safety debate. It hasn't. This is a company-built evaluation tool, not a regulatory standard. But it does matter because safety arguments in autonomy increasingly depend on the quality of the benchmark behind them. TechCrunch reports that Waymo developed the model with TU Delft and published research on it in Nature Communications on Wednesday. The company calls it the reference driver and says it improves on older approaches that focused more on last-second reactions. This version is meant to model the run-up to a crash, not just the instant before impact. That's a meaningful shift, so if you only model the final split second, you miss the earlier judgments that often decide whether a dangerous situation develops in the first place. Waymo's argument is that a more realistic behavioral model gives it a better yardstick for comparing autonomous systems with human driving in large sets of scenarios. The practical takeaway is this: in AI-driven autonomy, evaluation is becoming as important as the model itself. And if companies want public trust, they'll need benchmarks that are easier to scrutinize and harder to game. Next, the European Commission has ordered WhatsApp to restore free access for rival AI chatbots, while its antitrust investigation into Meta continues. The Verge reports this is an interim measure, not a final ruling. The Commission says the step is needed while it investigates whether Meta abused its market position by blocking third-party AI chatbots on WhatsApp. That makes this a platform access story as much as a competition story. If messaging apps become major distribution points for AI assistants, then control over who gets access and on what terms becomes a very big deal. The Verge notes that the Commission described the move as necessary to prevent serious and irreparable damage to competition in the market for general-purpose AI assistants. It also says this emergency power has only been used a second time in more than 20 years. So the broader implication is pretty clear. Regulators are no longer just watching AI model development. They're also watching the app layers and gatekeeping points that determine who can actually reach users. For today's research note, a paper from earlier this week called T1 Bench looks at a growing problem in agent evaluation. The paper is titled T1 Bench: Benchmarking Multi-Scenario Agents in Real-World Domains, and it argues that many current agent benchmarks are too limited in task complexity, realism, and domain diversity. In plain English, a lot of agent tests still reward systems for succeeding on clean, narrow tasks that don't look much like real work. The researchers position T1 Bench as a more realistic stress test. According to the paper, it evaluates agentic systems in customer-facing multi-domain environments with interleaved scenarios that require structured reasoning across multi-turn user-assistant interactions. It spans 25 domains of varying difficulty, evaluates 12 proprietary and open-weight models, and combines automatic evaluation with human judgments. The useful idea here is the shift from single-task demos to mixed, messy workflows. That is much closer to how people actually want agents to perform. Bottom line, if an agent looks great on a toy benchmark but struggles when tasks pile up across domains, that's a readiness problem. Benchmarks like T1 Bench matter because they test whether agent performance survives contact with realistic complexity. Are you building apps with voice? Elevate your app's voice capabilities with 11 Labs. Their API is a game changer for embedding dynamic, responsive voice interactions in your applications, providing unprecedented realism, flexibility, and latency. In fact, you're listening to one of their voices right now. If you are a developer looking to elevate user experience with natural voice interfaces, this is your solution. Visit upnext.fm/11 to check out their latest offerings. Anthropic has released Claude Fable 5, which TechCrunch describes as the company's first Mythos-class model available to the public. The report says the model includes guardrails that block responses in high-risk areas such as cybersecurity and biology. NVIDIA says its confidential computing GPUs are now being used for confidential inference in Apple's private cloud compute, as that infrastructure expands beyond Apple's own data centers to Google Cloud. In NVIDIA's telling, the point is to provide server-side inference with stronger privacy protections for Apple Intelligence features. And General Motors says EV batteries and vehicle-to-grid systems could help ease some of the power strain created by rising demand from AI data centers. The Verge reports GM tied a batch of announcements on EV batteries, energy storage, and grid resiliency to that growing electricity load. Before we wrap up, a quick note. This podcast is generated with the assistance of AI and is intended for informational purposes only. All referenced articles, research, and commentary remain the property of their original authors and publishers. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And that's your briefing for today. Full source links are in the episode notes, and we'll be back tomorrow with What's Up Next.